Hello everyone, this is Shashank Tyagi from Edukemy. I welcome you all to this class. When it comes to polity, the first experience which generally people have, and I'm requesting that just share in your comments, just share in the comments below, are you able to relate with this? As you start your polity preparation and you open these notes or books, what happened? You find that polity is about constitution. Constitution has some parts, some articles, some schedules. It means polity is about provisions. Provisions may be in some articles of constitution or maybe in some laws made by parliament. So generally, when students start, so they have this idea that polity is equal to provisions of certain articles and laws. And some students have this query, said, do we need to cram all the articles of constitution? Do we need to remember these? Why they are asking? Because they have seen some question papers of UPSC, and UPSC in the question statement has mentioned one or two articles. Okay? And from that fear, they have this idea, okay, we have to cram all these. That is necessary, that is polity. But let me simplify this for you. This is not UPSC expect. If you analyze the trend, you will find those questions can be handled easily if you have understanding of the provisions. Understanding of the provisions, I am not talking about cramming. Okay, if you get to the base why this provision has been made, what was the reasoning behind? If we are talking about constitution, what was in the brain of constituent assembly, what discussion they were having? So everything is available. Okay, this is not a rocket science. When it comes to moving ahead, as they move ahead and they get introduced to this idea of parliament, president, vice president, prime minister, now they think, okay, polity is also about processes. When I say process of making a law in parliament, how bill turns into act, there's a process. Lok Sabha, Raj Sabha, president, sign, act. Polity is about process. Okay, there's a procedure of amending the constitution. Okay, there is a procedure how president is elected, and we need to remember that because question has been asked in many exams, how president is impeached. So they think that polity is about process. Okay, although until now the student is going fine. Okay, now as they move ahead and they find, okay, there's something called interpretation. Supreme Court interpret certain articles of Indian Constitution, and these interpretations also change according to time. So polity is also about interpretation. Then they have this idea that, okay, we have to cram certain cases. What was there in what was there in, say, Gopalan case, what was there in Menka Gandhi case, what was there in case of Nand Bharti case, Mineral Mill case, Cooper case, and so on. So now they get the idea that polity is about provisions, processes, and interpretation. Okay, but I have used the word first approach. This is first approach. Because if you are a citizen of India and you want to understand polity, this is not enough. Okay, if you are appearing for exam, so this approach is definitely going to help you. But when I am standing in polity, I mean that if 20 questions are asked, 19 questions should be marked correct without any hiccup. I'm keeping one question aside because one question can be where you need to think, you need to use ways of deduction. And when I'm talking about polity, I'm also talking about means. And if you talk about means, then you need to have expression. And this expression should consist of sound opinions on issues which are going on with respect to polity. So for this, you need your fundamentals correct, right? I'm going to explain all of this with suitable examples. Okay, just hold tight. So if you take a look on this index of Lakshmikant, take a look. Historical background of Indian Constitution, making of the Constitution, salient features. But UPSC has asked question on democracy. Principles of democracy. I'm going to share that MCQ also. And since we are talking about polity and we are living in a democracy, don't you think it's our responsibility? We should have curiosity. What is democracy? Is it correct that whatever we know about democracy, is it necessary that that is correct? No. Take example. This question has been asked in prelims exam 2017. Democracy's superior virtue lies in the fact that it calls into activity, and then these were the options. Just take a look. The intelligence and character of ordinary men and women, the methods of strengthening executive leadership, a superior individual with dynamism and vision, a band of dedicated party workers. So, for handling these kind of questions, what UPSC expects? If you check the notification of UPSC, UPSC says that question will be of such level which generally as informed citizen should know. Although many students have this apprehension, generally informed citizen. This is the expectation from a generally informed citizen, that we have to know about polity, economy, history, geography, environment, and so on. Yes, the question would be which is expected from us. And that is why I want you to understand these areas with sharp approach. The answer to this question is this. And you should not cram. The question is democracy's superior virtue. Superior virtue. There can be many virtues of democracy. We are going to discuss in the lecture. Lies in the fact that it calls into activity the intelligence and character of ordinary men and women. Methods of strengthening. Don't you think when we are talking about democracy, then people will be having say in the matter who is going to rule. They have this power to vote, to elect. And this election gives an opportunity to these individuals to know about this, what is happening. Who are these candidates? Why I am giving the power to vote? So, this intelligence and character of ordinary men and women falls into activity. Okay, so these kind of questions are asked. Take another example. Which one of the following is closest to the principle of equality followed by a state? Now, the statement starts with the absence of, the absence of, the absence of, the absence of. So, if UPSC asks questions like closest, then only that person can answer this question correctly who know the idea of equality, who know the debate around idea of equality. What is equality? Is it that equality is about being equal in terms of distribution? Is equality about that everyone should be treated equally? If you think that everyone should be treated equally in all the matters is equality, then I would like to say that this statement, because for bringing equality, the state has to treat unequals. if states think that we are going to treat everyone equally, so don't you think this would be injustice? Because there are some people who are downtrodden, who are standing in the last of this line of development. Don't you think the state, means our government, needs to give some extra leverage to these people, because they are struggling for their basic livelihood. They are struggling for food. They are struggling for basic amenity. So we need to connect to these concepts of polity, not just because they are written in some book or notes, because these things matter, right? So principal equality, closest. So closest, the absence of privileges. This is the correct answer. When I say correct, why I am saying this? The other options are absence of restraints. That's not connecting with this idea. Competition, that's not connecting. Ideological differences, that is also not connecting. We live with this idea of equality, and we live with this idea that there should be ideological differences. So special privileges absence hone chahiye. Should not be there that government is treating some people with special privileges, and that would, what would that resemble? That would resemble inequality, right? So these kind of questions are asked. Another is, which one of the following statement is correct? Rights are claims, to 2017. Rights are claims of the state against the citizens. Rights are privileges which are incorporated in the constitution of the state. So many students answered this because they know that rights are privileges which are incorporated in the constitution of a state. So we know that there are certain rights which are mentioned in constitution, like fundamental rights. We are going to discuss. When I am going to approach fundamental right, I am not just going to say fundamental rights are mentioned in part 3 from article 12 to article 35. I am going to say what is so fundamental about fundamental rights. What are rights? From where this idea rights came? Is this a universal idea? What are the conflicts related to rights? Why rights are good and why rights are bad? So we need to build our approach on the basis of these learning outcomes. Okay, so each lecture of this GS Bridge course is going to be divided into themes, sub-themes, learning outcomes. It means every sub-theme which we are going to discuss is going to have some learning outcome. This is what you have got with 10 minutes of discussion. Okay, so this program is designed in such a way that you are going to have 1.5 hour class, and within 1.5 hour class we are going to discuss basic idea, debates, some questions which are simple as well as trivial in nature if you miss these crucial basic details. This is how we have designed it. Rights are claims of citizens against the state. So this was the correct answer, although these were too close options, right? But there are certain rights which are not mentioned in constitution, which are mentioned in some ordinary law. So when we say correct, so most correct is this, because rights are claims of citizens against the state. If you talk about right to speak, right to express, right to move freely, so you have this right now that if this right is not given, then you can go to Supreme Court, you can go to High Court. Even if we just talk about right, then you can go to an ordinary court also. Okay, because when I am talking about right, I am not just focusing on fundamental right. So what happens that since students have gone through this fundamental right notes so many times that they miss that the demand of question is basic idea of right. Okay, so in Lakshmikant, the topic is fundamental rights. Although Lakshmikant has also given some basic details about the rights, but you still need these sub-themes, these debates. Then you will be able to understand the happenings around. Okay, for example, if we talk about democracy, Okay, just listen to me. If you talk about democracy, so if I ask what is democracy, then some of you might say that democracy word originated from this word democratia. Okay, and demos means people, and cracy means rule by people, that is democracy. But do you think it is a valid way to understand a contemporary concept from its origin, or what that word represent at that time? Let me give an example. If we talk about computers, so when computers came, the basic application of computer was to solve some problems, okay, so basic calculation. Okay, so for that we use the word computer. But if we use the word computer as of now, do you think it is limited to doing some calculations? No. The word is same, but applications have evolved. Same happens with this democracy. Although the idea which evolved was rule by the people, but when it comes to applications, applications have evolved multifold in past few years. I would say many years. Past few years, expansion has been on rapid pace, but if we talk about overall journey, it has evolved a lot. So when it comes to democracy, just question yourself, what do you know about democracy? Basic idea is, okay, democracy means rule by the people, it means there should be an element of election. But my question is, if a government is there, election happened, and the representatives were elected from the people by their vote, but does it ensure democracy? Election has been done, people have participated, people have given their vote, and government has formed. Do you think if this process is present, this will ensure that there is democratic system over there? No, because there are some other features. So for this we need to understand the evolution. Some people have this idea that democracy is majority rules. But do you think majority rules is the idea of democracy? If a one party or a leader is elected because he was a popular leader, majority votes have been given. Do you think this would be democracy until and unless minorities, in whatever way, there can be linguistic minorities, there can be religious minorities, minorities are not given due protection, minorities are not given equal treatment? Do you think it would be democracy? Election is happening, popular leader has been elected, but this will not be a guarantee of democracy. So democracy itself is a comprehensive idea. Okay. So if I ask features of democracy, so final decision maker of making power किसके पास होती है? If we talk about democracy, we all know that final decision making power lies with people. But do you think this power is realized by people? Yes or no? If yes, how? If no, then how can people realize their power? As of now, if a representative is coming to their colony or their lane or their home around, then people treat them as celebrities, and many people have don't have confidence to talk to ministers and set aside prime minister, because they have this idea, oh, this is something big. But if you dwell into the concept of democracy, you will find real power lies with people. These elected representatives are given some duty by you and me. They are doing their job, like I am doing my job and you are going to do your job, or maybe some people are doing their job. They are doing just their job. There may be some good people who are well in their job, and there may be some people who need improvement in their job. So this idea of grandiose connected to this certain post is existing because our people have not attained the true democratic values until now. We are on the curve of maturity when it comes to democracy. Free and fair election. Everyone knows that democracy means democracy में free and fair election तो होने चाहिए. But if I ask, what does this word free means? What does this word fair means? What does this word free means? So you need to question yourself. Free means that everyone who as per law is entitled to vote is voting without any fear. The person, for example, in India, if you are above 18, you are a citizen of India, you have this right that you can be registered into electoral roll of election commission and then you can vote. You are free to vote to person of your choice, to party of your choice. That is free election. Let me share a story. So at one point what happened that I was having discussion with one of my friend who happened to be right hand of minister of that time, and that minister was MLA from our area, our constituency. So my friend who was campaigning for that minister asked me that that ensure that all of your family members are voting for our minister. So I'm not taking the name. So I said okay, but my mother father were having this discussion last night that they may plan for nota. They were discussing this nota, none of the above. So okay. So when this voting happened and that results came, so he came to my house and he said, your mother, father are the one, uncle and auntie are the one who voted nota in the whole constituency. Yeah, constituency, because this constituency, it was about the booth. So he was having booth level data with him at that time. So the representatives of a particular candidate have access to these data. So he said, on the whole booth, your mother, father are the one who voted nota. How come you know? There are many people. So he said, only 2 notas have been used. Only 2. And you were discussing, so those 2 are uncle and auntie. So this identification is easy in present setup of voting, right? So I have shared an example of nota. This happens with many areas at the level of booth where a elected representative don't give that kind of attention to a particular area because he has this data, and okay, you people were not the one who voted me. You were voting to my other representative. So you were voting for other candidate. So I'm not going, although they don't say it directly, but they take them on the backside. So don't you think this is against this idea of free election, because they having access to this data from which area, how many people voted for this party, how many people voted for this party. So what can be done for this? Do we have some ideas related to this? Yes, we have. There's a discussion on voting totalizer. Voting totalizer machine means all the EVMs after getting collected, they are going to connect in such a way that all the voting would be mixed. Means booth level data won't be able to be captured. Okay. So we need to understand what is the problem and how this problem can be resolved. So first I told about what is free election, then I told about what is the problem, and then I told about what could be the possible solution. Okay, although this is not the comprehensive lecture, I'm just introducing you to some important areas as well as approaches to handle polity. Fair election. What does it mean, fair election? Fair election means that the party who is ruling has all the chance to lose the election. When I say this, it means that government machinery is not going to be used by a particular party for influencing election. Voting is going to be done in a transparent manner. Counting of votes is going to be done in a transparent manner. Let me give an example. You all know that Syria is in news from quite a few. There's a long time. Crisis is going on in Syria, right? So Syria has this major party, Baath Party, okay, Arab Socialist Baath Party. So they believe in this ideology of Baathism, Arab, reorganization of Arab, all that. So now my point is, Bashar al-Assad, who is the present leader of Syria, conducted elections, right? There were some other parties, rival parties also, but the hold of Baath Party is continuing, okay, from last more than 15 years. Now point is, election is being conducted, voting has been done, counting of votes had been done. Still, many countries say that Syria is not a democracy. Why? Because elections are not fair. How elections are not fair? The power or influence of Baath Party in Syria is at such an extent that government teachers are told to tell parents, convince parents to vote this particular. All the government employees mandatorily take part into this convention of this particular political party. Do you think election would be fair? Do you think we can say that this is a democracy? Right? There are some other ideas. For example, when B.R. Ambedkar was having this discussion on the final draft of constitution, so one Constituent Assembly member said, so Mr. Ambedkar, finally, we are giving this constitution to Indian people and India is going to be a great democracy. Ambedkar said, I cannot second your argument because this democracy would be successful or not, it would be dependent on the people. So India as a democracy is a success or failure depends on you, me and people around us. You would say, how can we be responsible for a success of democracy? Yes, we are responsible for success and failure of a democracy. For example, he said one person, one vote, one value. This is one essential principle of a democracy. One person should have one vote and that one vote should have one value. And you would say, yeah, this is quite common. Yes, we have this. But I am saying there are some countries or within India, do you think in all elections you have one person, one vote? No. For procedural reasons, for example, if you take election of president, so this is the indirect elections, MLAs and MPs vote in this election, elected MLAs and elected MPs. Common people don't give vote in election of president. So if you just take into consideration the value of vote of MP and MLA, there's a difference. So for procedural reasons, we have made this, but overall, the government which is going to be formed is going to be formed by people. And when we are talking about people, each vote has one value. And when I'm talking about one value, this is not just about counting value. I'm talking about each person should have one equal value. Okay. So it is also connected with the concept of social equality. Okay. If government is popular, do you think it is going to be democratic? No, it is possible that it become undemocratic? It is very much possible. It is equally important to look before and after the election. If you want to ensure that whether democracy is there or not, look before the election and after the election. Right? And now you would ask, देखना क्या है? देखना ये है, whether people associations are given right to speak, express or not. Whether government of the time is open to correct its mistakes or not. Mistakes happen. Open to correct mistakes or not. Whether people are given their civil rights or not. When I am saying given, because it may be possible that these rights are mentioned in constitution, these rights are mentioned in law, but it is also possible that these rights are not implemented. So these gaps needs to be checked. Then only we can see whether we are having this democracy or not. So also we are going to discuss about debates. If ruler got elected by people, does that ensure that this is a democratic system? We have also discussed this, that it is not necessary. Okay, because take example of General Pervez Musharraf, Pakistan. So he organized a coup and removed the democratically elected government and became president of Pakistan. Election happened, but the cabinet was working as per a committee headed by army officials. So it was indirectly in the control of General Pervez Musharraf. So elections were there, cabinet was there. But do you think Pakistan was a democracy at that time? No. Constitution may say, but in practical terms, democracy was not there. Election was there, but democracy was not there. Right? So if we talk about democracy, we need to talk about certain issues. Okay? So one feature of democracy, which all of us know, that people are king. Even if someone is minister, at the time of election they would come. Tujhe mein rab dikhta hai, sajde sar jhukta hai. Another aspect of democracy is that you have openness to embrace different views, political views. So this image represents this parliament building, and there are many flags. Some flags are having they have tied with other flag, means there can be coalition of different ideas, and there are some flags which are independent, right? So this is an essential aspect of a democracy. If one ideology is dominating and suppressing other ideologies, that's not democracy, even if you have election. Okay? In this image is given in class 9th NCERT. Some army soldiers are, putting this democracy. What do you think this M represents? Do you find some resemblance somewhere else? So this image resembles how democracy is, getting established in Iraq. So there was Saddam Hussein. We all know that he was a dictator. And then we saw intervention of USA. So US forces were trying to establish democracy over there, but there were claims that this democracy is established for benefit of corporates, big corporates. So here M represent McDonald, and you all know the chain is from US. So there were many companies who were getting benefited because democracy was getting established in a particular. So now debate is, do we need to establish democracy by force, or first democratic values, some principles should be introduced, ideas should be introduced among people, people should be mobilized, people should want, people should be mature enough, there should be a movement that they demand democracy, they are ready to take responsibility of democracy, because responsibility is not an end. Democracy is not an end, democracy is every day's duty. So we should know about these aspects. Ouch, too much of democracy. Because it happens that when people raise their hands, then it also become a trouble for the government. So do we need a balance over there, or people should be free? Our constitution also talks about some reasonable restriction, but freedom has been given for a particular reason. So we should know about these debates. When it comes to constitution, we should know why we need constitution. Can we imagine a state without constitution? Is having constitution a guarantee of democracy? So we should go through these aspects. Although idea of constitution is from ancient times, but when it comes to constitution, it is not just about having a basic rule book. There are some nations, they have the constitution, but their constitution is not implemented even to the extent it is implemented in India. So this is something to be proud about, right? So this is what we are going to discuss in that lecture. We are going to discuss about rights. So you should know that you have to build your base around rights. You have to build your base around citizenship. What is citizenship? Why citizenship? What are the debates around citizenship, like NRC, CA, NPR? What are all these? Nationalism. What is nationalism? So if we talk about nationalism, many people know this definition, right? But is nationalism an ancient idea or a modern idea? Do we have other ideas like nationalism? Refugees, problem of refugees, this is also one important issue. From polity, it also connects with other topics like social justice. Power sharing, federalism. When I say power sharing, you should understand how power is shared between different communities. Let me share an example of Sri Lanka. So there's a continuing debate, or I would say tussle, between Sinhalese and Tamils of Sri Lanka. So during the colonial time, Tamil, who were in minority, yet had good standing in terms of having positions in the government of that time. They were more literate, educated, I would say. They were in government, they were in power positions. And Sinhalese, who were in majority, they were not that much well off. But after Sri Lanka got independent, the Sinhalese had this idea propagated that this Tamil population came from Tamil area, Tamil Nadu, which we call Tamil Nadu now, and we are the original inhabitants, and there originated this discrimination, and there originated this fight on power sharing. So there is this debate on power sharing. Now this debate also goes to union and states, and even to the third tier. How much power should be there at the level of union? How much power should be there at the level of state? How much power should be there at the level of local governments? So this we are going to discuss in power sharing. You need to understand. Okay, just go through NCERT. Okay, political parties. Why we need political parties? What are political parties? What is this issue of corporate funding of political party? What is this issue of removing certain restrictions related to donation to political parties? Don't you think these are something we should be interested in? We should know this. Examination also wants people who have this curiosity to understand institutions. When I say institutions, we are going to talk about political institutions. When I say political institutions, I mean legislative, executive, judiciary. Why they are there? What kind of interaction is there? लेकिन ऐसा interaction बनाया क्यों गया? There are some nations where judiciary has more power. There are some nations where judiciary has less power. Why this kind of system? So this whole series is going to give you some answers related to why. Themes, sub-themes, debates, and every 10 minutes learning outcomes. Some MCQs and some questions, debates which you are going to use in your daily life also, and when you prepare for this foundation. So let's meet some other lecture. Till then, keep learning, keep growing.